morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. Go check them out at recklesscoffee.com. And with us, it's Wednesday. It's the Wednesday gang is here. So that number one greatest dads is here as always. Number two is here this
I
week.
got a better one.
And with Reckless Coffee.
Yeah.
After freezing his ass off, I assume trick-or-treating
Yes.
last night because it was mighty cold. Like over the years with the girls, we've had a couple of brutal ones where no hot chocolate was saving the day, but yesterday was rough.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. My son went as Puss in Boots, but by the end he looked like Jack Nicklaus.
And with us, probably young enough to go trick-or-treating himself, is John. What were you dressed up as, John? Gravenberg, I assume?
Well, the Gravenberg kit wasn't coming until today. As it said, it's out for delivery today, so it didn't come quick enough. But, shout out to the boys from Anfield Shop who ordered the kit. Like, it was pretty quick. I ordered it just 2 days ago. Now it's out for delivery. They're pretty quick. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm good. It's Wednesday. It's game day. It's hump day. It's whatever day you guys want, the 1st of November. But, I'm ready to go with my Reckless Coffee.
Damn, you guys got all the
Nice.
Reckless. I was saving mine for Reckless Friday. Kermit has been demoted. I've made Fridays Reckless Friday. Ryan is here. Good morning. Alan, Sir Z, as we gather around over here, it is game day. So obviously we're going to be here for the pre-match. So I'm going to save a lot of the game conversation for the pre-match. Ryan says John went as a TikTok video.
Hey, now.
That was the trick.
That was the trick, yeah.
If you didn't get a treat, that was the trick he was doing at doors. He was doing his TikTok dances to get some stuff rolling over here. But
You would have got a treat at my house, that's for sure.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, Gordo. At least one person appreciates me. Everyone.
oh man, yeah, we had it's gonna be a crazy show. We were already cracking up in tears before the show started. So, speaking of cracking up in tears, let's hit some of the headlines over here.
Oh! I thought you did. I thought you said this doesn't count as news.
It doesn't. That's why I was
News.
like, we kind of like talk in our own private Discord before we go on air over here, and we shoot each other links and stuff, like good headlines that we feel like we should talk about. John over here sent this as news, but we all decided it was not really necessarily news. it was just like business as usual. But sadly, Thiago's still not available for Liverpool after injury. I guess the thing I wanted to ask from this, at this point, I mean, I've been kind of saying with the depth we have and how they played and stuff like that, maybe it would be a good idea to get something for him. But I don't even think John Anand might sign him. Apart from that, I don't know if any team is coming right now and giving anything for a guy that is basically a translator, Adrian's midfield edition kind of a deal.
Right, locker room morale guy, right? Like
the hype guy.
right, yeah. It's gonna be tough to try and even get something from him. Like the logical step is probably to just let him run out his contract and get him out on the free. But I'm still kind of holding out a little bit of hope here because I would love to see Thiago with our midfield right now. Like I do agree with I forgot who said it a few shows ago that he possibly still is our all-around best midfielder in terms of like pedigree, in terms of skill, and in terms of football IQ, I would say. So I would love to see him play around with Maka, with Gravenberch, with Dom. But at this point, that might be asking a little bit too much. So just food for thought. I think it would look great, but hey.
In place of who? Gravenberch or who's it?
Oh no, not Gravenberch, not Gravenberch. No, probably.
Never mind. Just sell him.
Yeah, just sell him.
Yesterday, don't
Talking
scare
about
him.
Gravenberch being replaced, like hell no, man. Like,
so who's he replacing?
Logically, he'd probably be in the 6th role. Like, if we're talking profile, he's probably as similar to McAllister, or rather, McAllister is pretty much similar to him, kind of like a smaller player, slider build, but can play that killer pass here and there from a deeper role. So I'd probably see him playing in that position more than, let's say, an 8 where Szoboszlai or Gravenberch would be playing, where he has to press, where he has to run. Like, let's face it, he can't run and press anymore as well as he used to. So.
Yeah, Matush says he could look good with Endo and Joe's in the curve.
Yeah, he would though. He would though. To be fair.
I mean, that's the question though. Like, you know, we do a lot of complaining and whining and moaning about Mac playing at the 6. We're like, hey, we're not getting his full potential and stuff. I mean, if that wasn't an option, do you take Thiago at the 6 or do you take Mac at the 6, Gordo?
In the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup?
No, like
that's an easy one.
On any given day in a you know, in a Premier League.
Well, game. If that frees up McAllister to play in a more natural role, then yes, I would definitely choose that. But if we're replacing McAllister with Thiago, I probably would still have Thiago coming off the bench.
We talked about this the other day. Okay, so if you are moving Mac up, you know what that means for John? Because you're not moving Szoboszlai. John is getting worried.
There's one thing that Thiago can do better than anybody on the team currently, and that is like slow down time when he has the ball at his foot.
I thought you were gonna say look shocked. Okay.
Or maybe lie in the hospital bed or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can open his eyes more than any other player on the squad. That's for sure. Yeah, so let me ask you the same question over there. Since you brought up that you want to see Thiago back there, Thiago or McAllister in a game where we're playing. I mean, I think if you were playing, I don't know, Sheffield United at home or like similar to the Forest game, I can maybe see Thiago. But let's go West Ham or Villa or somebody like that. Do you want to see Mac at the 6 or Thiago at the 6 if those are your only two options?
You're asking me, right?
Yes.
Sorry, it's early in the morning. But yeah, West Ham's and the Villas, oh no, definitely McAllister. Because as good as Thiago is on the ball, he's off the ball, he just doesn't quite have it anymore. Like we see it. He can't stay healthy. He doesn't have the physical gifts anymore to play in a Jurgen Klopp team consistently. Now, if we have the ball like 90% of the time, that's a different question. But if we're going to have to defend in transition, try and make some tackles to break up or win the ball back, absolutely not. It's McAllister for me. Hell, I'd even have Endo above him in that pecking order.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
It's just that in terms of an absolutely technical midfield, right? Imagine a midfield of McAllister, Gravenberch, and Thiago, or Szoboszlai, Thiago, Gravenberch, or vice versa, any of those three. It would just really be technically, for those who value technique over, physical gifts over there, those kinds of fans, they'd be creaming their pants. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. That's the only thing I have with Thiago, though. Like I almost feel like he has a little bit of what Diaz does at times, where keep the ball way too long and stop the movement of the ball.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna roll around his ankles and move the ball and stuff like that. I mean, dude is like, yeah, he's class and what he can do with the ball and stuff. But sometimes I feel like it slows down too much, and if there is not enough movement up top, you need a lot of movement up top to be able to justify that, and he forces a pass. But I mean, yeah, at this stage, I think my initial plan, suggestion, dream of moving and getting something for him in January is probably out the window. It's November 1st. Doesn't sound like it's anywhere close. So, I mean, nobody's going to be like, yeah, we'll give him 15 million to see if he's going to play. We need a translator or something like that. So I don't think that's happening. But I guess we have to talk about this. I hate this crap. But what are you going to do? It's the headlines. For those of you who care, Ballon d'Or was there. Guess who won? So I guess, and then Ronaldo liked and laughed in the comments of the video criticizing Messi's 8th. Gordo, let's start with you. I personally could not care less because I think it's a comedy. I'm proud to say I have not watched an award show in the last decade or so because I feel like it's just all people. This is an R-rated show, jerking each other off. That's fine. So,
sorry,
how
Tim.
much importance do you give to Ballon d'Or?
So sorry, Tim. Before Gordo starts, you didn't even consider looking at the one when Virgil was in. Not at all.
You know what? I did right when the Virgil thing was coming up. That's the only time. Like, yeah, good thing you mentioned that because that's the only time I looked because Virgil was in it, and I was like, that kind of like reconfirmed. I'm like, this is exactly why I don't watch the shits. And then went back to regularly scheduled programming of now watching award shows. But how much value do you give to it? Do you follow it? Do you care, Gordo?
No. It's a great it's a great honor to win it. I'm sure, like that's one thing that I would love to have in my trophy cabinet would be the Ballon d'Or. But in terms of the weight that I put to it personally, not very much, especially because like Lewandowski lost it when he probably should have won it hands down, and Messi got it, and then this one. I mean, what more does Haaland have to do? Like what? Honestly, winning the treble in his first season, basically scored every time he touched the ball, and Messi wins the World Cup. Like maybe he would have won a World Cup, but Norway didn't make the World Cup, so it's like. And if anyone thought that he was going to win it, or that Messi wasn't going to win it, what isn't paying attention? It was so obvious that was the way it was going to go. They wanted the curtain to come down on Messi. As soon as he won the World Cup, you knew he was going to win the Ballon d'Or, and that was just like curtain call. So I don't put much stake in it. I think it is very much like the award shows for movies and TV. It's already predetermined.
And that's how I feel about it. Like Haaland not winning is a joke. I think Lewandowski, like you said, not winning was a joke. But honestly, like it's a joke. But when you see the joke, you don't even laugh because it's coming. It's one of those jokes. Like you knew it was not going to happen. So you're like, exactly kind of thing. But until Gravenberch is a candidate, will you care or watch, John?
I cared massively when Virgil was in it because I felt like what he did in terms of kind of elevating the status of a defender, right? In terms of being recognized as the best player in the world was like a landmark, right? Like at least at the time, right? In the Messi and Ronaldo era, a defender even being in the conversation is here and see Virgil just come up just short. Like let's be real here. Like I don't like making these absolutely all-encompassing predictions, but we're probably never going to see a season as good as Van Dijk's almost Ballon d'Or winning season, right? So if that's not enough to win a Ballon d'Or, kind of like Haaland now, where he literally broke the record in his first season in England, right? As Gordo said, he scored every match he was in. What more do you want? Like, it's just ridiculous. It's like, I get that the World Cup is something valued, massively valued, but you can't put it above winning 3 of the outright most difficult competitions in the sport, which is the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup. So I don't know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like the boss's son winning Employee of the Month
right
every year, even though they don't even show up for work or something like that. It's
right.
just like that's what it reminds me of, and that's why like you say, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to mention that was probably one time I peeked to see what was happening when Van Dijk was there, and it's like, and the moment it happened, I was like, this is it. It's a joke, and I feel like like Gordo was saying, I feel the same way for a lot of these award shows and stuff like that. A lot of people, it's already predetermined. It's good in the acting ones because they act surprised too, and I think that's like really shows class. And they're like, you know what, he's good, give it to him. Look how shocked he looks that he won and stuff like that. So, okay, more pathetic news. Let's get to those. World Cup bids is 2034 World Cup is in Saudi Arabia. Because no other bids were there. Because if you had bids, you were gonna end up.
Did you win the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah. Because you were going to get chainsawed to bits if you put in a bid against Saudi Arabia, probably in the World Cup. Is this kind of their reward, or kind of like okay, you guys win thing for what they're doing to the European leagues? Do you think, John?
Yeah. This is kind of what, like, we've talked about it countless times, and we've clowned them countless times. Specifically Anan, which is hilarious, by the way, if you haven't seen those shorts. But Saudi has been gearing up for this. This is what they've been preparing for all their lives. Not to sound dramatic, right? Getting in everyone to the league, getting all these star players for the league, and woohoo, good for them. It's paid off. Like, in terms of the integrity and the manner of them getting it, obviously questions need to be asked, but if Qatar can host it, Saudi Arabia can host it. So I mean, I don't really much care at this point. This is just how it is in the sport.
I think it's planned to be in summer, which is
Right.
different. So from what I had read before, and a lot of shadiness went into this to isolate them, because
Yeah.
I know like Turkey was going to bid for it with, I think it was going to be with Greece or somebody like that. They were going to like 3 countries or whatever they were going to do. And then they were like, hey, why don't you guys host the Euro with Italy over here? You guys hold hands and host it together, kind of a thing. So before you know it, Turkey was out of the 2034 talk into 2032 with Italy, which that's where the Euros are going to be. And then suddenly there was nobody anyway. So we don't even, need to discuss or argue because nobody else is bidding, kind of thing,
That's
Gordo.
so funny.
I mean, yeah, it's just like basically they cleared the way. They kept a couple of knees to make sure they were like Saudi had no competition. And honestly, like even if there was competition, they were going to win anyway. It was going to be a bit more obvious. Do you think that's why they were like, hey, nobody else bids, they're going to win anyway. We already got the bags of cash, kind of a deal.
Oh no, it's because they know they can't compete with it. I forget what it was, if it was a TV show or an article that I read, but they went through the process of how a country basically gets a bid, and you have to wine and dine these guys. You literally, in order to win the bid, you got to take them out to these extravagant events. You got to take them out to dinners. It's so obviously about the kickbacks, and nobody can compete with Saudi for the kickbacks. And so everyone's like, why would you even put a bid in? Because I feel like it'd be a little embarrassing, because especially like Qatar, when they hosted, the other countries that missed out on the Qatar bid were a little embarrassed, because like, wait, Qatar got it over us? What? I don't understand how that happened.
Was our bid. Like
Nobody wants to feel like that again. So it's like, yeah, we'll let them do what they want to do, and they'll go to the Circus Soleils on the beach and whatever, and that's great. Yeah, it's like John said, it's very obvious what's going on, and questions need to be asked, but who's going to ask them? Because we've already told them, and I know I've said it on this podcast at nauseum, but like, we've already told them that we'll watch it regardless of where it is. I mean, it could literally be on the what's the island with all the kids that I forget the guy's name. They can host the World Cup on that guy's island, and we'd still watch the World Cup. I butchered the joke because I don't. There you go. Yeah, Epstein. Yeah, Epstein's Island, World Cup,
brought to you by.
And everyone would be like, the Fox would be there, and they'd be like, "This is a fantastic venue. We're gonna send Chad Ochocinco is gonna go to that pyramid temple thing and show us around."
Oh dear.
Sergi says, do we get to keep Salah now? He's not needed to promote Saudi anymore. I think that's one thing I thought of is, what does this mean for the Saudi League? Is this just like a cherry on top for them? Does that say, John, that this thing is going to be around at least for another decade? Or is it mission accomplished? You guys can all go back home now. So all the guys who went there.
I mean, I hope it's mission accomplished, because I watched this very interesting video the other day where the explanation as to why there are very limited, or rather not as much people watching the games in the Saudi League is for geographic reasons, because each area is pretty much like almost a few days away from each other. So fans traveling to stadiums aren't as ideal, especially in this sort of weather. So I don't know if it's an interest thing, or if it's, like as the video said, a geographic thing. So obviously more studies needs to be done on that, right? That being said, in terms of their World Cup thing, yes, it is mission accomplished, but knowing these guys and their ambitions, why stop now, right? They pretty much have these players. They already have what they wanted, which is the World Cup bid. Like the chairman of the league said that their intention was to put themselves in the mix, was to bloody Europe's noses. They're already doing that. So why stop now?
That's a good point, too. Right. Handel leaving for Sunderland in January, says Sergi. There is no generational wealth in Sunderland. He might have already had it. He's been there like 10 weeks. So with those wages, I'm sure he's already racked it up. But so, Gordo, do you think, they're like, hey, we're really getting somewhere, step on it? Or are they like, hey, take the next exit, we're done over here when it comes to the Saudi League and how they approach it?
I see it a little differently. I see it as like a publicity stunt to keep them relevant because of all the stuff that's come out recently. I think it's like, will that even be a legitimate league in whatever 34. We'll see. That's a long way away. If they can keep it up, then they've got it. But what ends up happening is now they're back in the limelight for a little bit, and they can plug in all these look at the progress we've made kind of things, and kind of keep their story floating, because I think they were hit pretty hard when all the stars that went over there, or at least, Kareem Benzema says that all the stars are not happy with what they're doing over there. So I don't know why they chose him as their spokesperson, but they probably saw Jordan Henderson's interview and were like, nah, we don't want him to be speaking for us. So.
Yeah, like they made Benzema. They're like, hey man, can you pitch it a little bit? This is bullshit. And he was like, yeah. Nobody's happy back here. Like, it's like we don't have anybody to count the money for us. It's just ridiculous.
Stain in all my shoes.
Oh, can we get Alexi? Well, Alexi probably is already there. I don't mean that.
At the risk of being demonetized, Timuchin does not mean that, people.
Let the record show. I am not meaning that. It's done in
check
humor.
The flight log.
Yeah. We just lost our sponsor, Reckless Coffee. Yeah. Speaking of, let's plug them in on their way out, probably after that joke. But recklesscoffeeroasters.com. Make sure you guys go check it out. Support a red, support a small business, and support one of our sponsors, which means supporting us. So go check out their website, place an order. Thanksgiving is around the corner. And it is really good stuff, because I think we all got like different like welcome packs to kind of like try it out and stuff like that, and the mugs, which we thank them again for it. And everybody is praising the one they got, and we all got different types, so that says a lot by itself. So it's not like just one mix is really good. Like I think it's Guatemala. And I don't know, like this is gonna be the coffee snob conversation a little bit, but like I love mocha, but sometimes you get mocha at places and it's like they squeeze some Hershey syrup in your coffee is what it tastes like, just like
right.
This like fake chocolate taste. No, like this has like it's not even a mocha, but it has like a little bit of like you get that chocolate taste and stuff like that. So it is really, really good stuff. So definitely the recommended. What did you guys get? Or do we all have the same thing by any chance here? But
I got Colombian, I think.
That's right. You did tell me that.
I got the Guatemalan medium roast.
Yes, that's the one I have, and it is just amazing.
That's really good. And the mug. I know you guys are have the big mugs, but this is my first like big boy mug. I put what I normally put in. Yeah. I put what I normally put in my mug in the morning. I poured it in, and it didn't even fill it up halfway. And I'm like, oh wow, I guess this is a big boy. This is a big boy mug.
It's a very.
You were like using espresso ones before.
By the end of the Liverpool game, I was like, wow, I'm wide awake. Let's go do something.
It's a very stylish mug, folks. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel intellectual. Like whenever I have it, I feel like 10 times smarter, and that's saying something. So,
it's something is in the coffee. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely go check them out. RecklessCoffeeRoasters.com. Alexi Lelas recommends it as well, I'm sure. Okay, let's continue the comedy over here. And who else but United? And there's like a lot of stuff that we can talk about over here. So one, we kind of like touched upon it. I was on the Premier League show with Gally this week, and we kind of like talked about this. Definitely take the captaincy off of Bruno Fernandes. I think that should have been done when he gave up chasing, was it Basetic at the time, who made basically fun of him, and he just like gave up and stopped playing. And I feel like that's like somebody should have walked on the field right there and right then and taken the captaincy band off of him and be like, yeah, we don't want this shit out here, kind of an ordeal. There are obviously a lot of problems over there, so I do want to talk about it, but I'm happy to report that the issues have been solved and the guilty party has been announced. And here it is. It's the socks. The socks are way too damn tight, people. So the United players have been complaining about this. See, Ryan knows. Ryan knows what's up. The sock is the issue. Too goddamn tight, John. And you can't play with tight socks.
Wow. Like, I was the one who sent you that link, and I'm still kind of caught off guard with, like, listen, this is the first time. This is breaking new ground. I've never seen I haven't been supporting Liverpool as long as you guys, definitely, but I've never seen a team blame their failures on tight kits and tight socks. It's just
Yeah, I think they took a piece from Villa's book. And they're like, hey, it worked. Everyone
Right.
agreed with them, man. Let's do socks. Let's go with socks.
Like they got a giant book there and going because the Glazers is becoming stale, right? So they're kind of coming up with this a lot, and now it sucks. Like next week it's probably going to be the pitch or something, or the weather, right? Even though they play.
But is it
because if I purchased one of those pairs of socks for strictly research and wore them for the next week, and I'll give I'll on this podcast I'll give a review of how I feel the socks were, because I still, although I don't play very much anymore, I play once a week for 8 weeks, twice a year. I still have some decent sized calves, so I'll test them out and see how I feel if I'm
Kyle Walker, and I've seen some players do this, right? They
Right.
do put hole on the back. I mean, I don't know, when I played, I mean, everybody's different, obviously, but I wanted the cleats and the socks as tight as freaking possible. Like I hated slipping shin guards. It was like the strapped in version. That's from I just wanted the compact. I didn't even want to feel like I had something. That's why some of these new cleats that really wrap around your foot, you basically put it on, it's so freaking tight that there's no way it's coming up. I mean, those are a dream. I wish they had those when I was back playing, because they're really, really good. We need the review. Promises made on the morning show must be fulfilled. Yes. So now we need the review because right. Mateusz fulfilled one promise.
I would definitely
he has made. So now he expects everybody to.
I would definitely eat in that restaurant. By the way, that sounds delicious.
That menu was something. Yeah. Yes. I'll have to give it to John over here. If you guys missed the Monday show, go ahead and check out the end of the Monday show where Mateusz fulfilled the promise. First of all, that's an occasion to watch the show anyway. Go back if you missed it. But not only that, he has really delivered, making up for all the other promises not fulfilled. But let's talk about this. Is it really the players saying, man, we can't get going over here, these damn socks? Or somebody just said, as they're interviewing and, they're like, yeah, we got to do better on the pitch. They're like, yeah, man, goddamn these socks, as they pull it up. And, media kind of runs with it. Gordo, is it kind of like somebody mentioned it and they're making it like they're using it as an excuse? Or do you think really United players are like, yeah, man, I wish we could play. It's too damn tight.
It's got to be a little of both. Because sometimes when you hear players that clearly have spent their whole lives playing soccer and not being educated, sometimes it's like, what are you saying? It's like, yeah, some of the guys in the back, they just run out of things to say, and sometimes the socks get in our way, and then they're like, oh, socks, okay, these guys are complaining about socks. And so it's got maybe a little bit of that, but I don't know, when you're failing and when you shouldn't be failing, you can blame just about anything. And there might be a little bit of that where, Villa comes out and says it and everyone's like, actually, those garbage bags they're wearing definitely get very tight on those bodies. And they're like, you know what? Our kits suck too this year. These fucking socks, man. God damn these socks. It's like, anyone else, when you pull the socks down, does anyone else have that mark on your leg? It doesn't come off for a couple of hours. My wife's been complaining about it. So maybe that. Yeah, I totally shanked that shot because of the socks. I don't know.
That's the thing. I mean, it's obviously an excuse. And I don't even know, John, if they use it as an excuse, or at this point, I think it comes to a point where the club, and we've been there, right? We've had some ridiculously rough seasons and where the performances really suck and you see lack of efforts as well and stuff like that. And at that point, whatever they can't say anything right at the moment. There's nothing, because you can only say we got to go out there and show blah blah blah. The fans deserve this. You can only say that so many times before people even stop hearing it. Has it come to a point where whatever they say, it just really doesn't matter anyway? People are just gonna take it and basically blow it up like this.
Oh yeah, that's for sure, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Like more. Like if they're gonna be complaining about their shoes next, then by all means, it's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I totally see it. I totally get it from that perspective. Like you said, we were at that point, especially towards the start of the decade, where we couldn't do anything right. Or here we are bigging up our team every year. Oh, Liverpool are back. It's the drive for 19 or something like that, and then we finished like 8th or something. So that's pretty much how it is with United. I do think that the question, going back to those things that we were talking about, the question about Bruno Fernandes being a captain, it's absolutely 1000% more relevant than anything about kits or socks. Like everything has to be analyzed from a football perspective. And as much as we're clowning it, yeah, I agree with you. Someone probably mentioned in passing about socks, and then they just ran with it. It is the mirror after all. So yeah, that they were kind of hard.
It's everywhere though. It's on Athletic. I mean,
Right.
it's everywhere.
Right.
The
It's
jerseys.
everywhere.
Onana was wearing a replica.
Yeah.
Because his original jersey was too bad. But I think, John, we were talking about in the pregame that, the pre-show chat that, De Gea was complaining it was too loose and stuff like that. It's And I think sometimes, I don't know, you got to figure like, especially experienced players should be smarter than that. But and this is when Klopp gets into it with people in press conferences. They ask you questions to get a soundbite. It's all about getting a click. It's all about getting something, right? So they ask you questions. I mean, if they are like, are the socks too tight? And you're like, yeah, they're a little tight. They're like, oh, the United players are saying that the socks are tight. That's why they couldn't play and stuff like that. But as everybody in the comments is mentioning as well, this has nothing to do with the media. We see this on the pitch ourselves all the time, and how this guy, I mean, like I always talk about my brother, and he like despises him, and I think it shows everything wrong. And we had this chat with my brother at one point, and I was actually bringing it up. We were talking about it with Gally on the Premier League show. Let's say Roy Keane, you're right, man, this guy should not be captain. Take that band, and then you're looking around over here. Gordo, who are you giving it to right now in the United squad?
Scott McTominay. That's probably I know that he's not favored right now, but the guy's in brilliant form for Scotland. He is just, I feel like he's a natural leader. I would probably have given it to Rashford. The problem with Rashford is, and honestly the problem with Ten Hag is, the club continued to buy big name players to sell jerseys that didn't really fit roles. But the players that they brought in carried more weight than the club itself. And so when you have a locker room full of young guys and you get a Ronaldo who just walks off before the end of the game or whatever, and nothing's done, and then he's in the lineup the next day, you have no authority. Ronaldo is now the authority. And so when you have all these other guys looking up to Ten Hag, well, he doesn't have any weight behind him, because there are players in the locker room that are not only bigger than the manager, but bigger than the club itself. And Rashford was constantly getting he was in decent run of form, and then was getting constantly overpicked by these guys that weren't performing because their price tag was bigger, because, oh, it's Ronaldo, we want to see him back. And then Rashford's confidence dips, and now he's not even the same player that he used to be. So I think there's a deep underlying problem with United, and unfortunately it's everyone above where you can make the changes that have caused all these issues, I feel like. And they've done the one thing that's been a problem for just about everybody until they kind of figure it out, is going through managers really quickly. You saw it with Arsenal, you saw it with us even, and not giving these guys the time of day, once there's a little bit of a failure. Like Chelsea's fantastic at this. I mean, they have all these great managers and winning trophies, and then they finish third, and it's like, no, you need to be winning the tournament. And then you see Arsenal, they were like, Arteta had some rough years, and they gave him a go, and now look at them, they look like they know what they're doing. And the problem is, do you stop that carousel on the wrong guy? Do you go like, this is the guy we want to give space to or time to? Or do you go, Ten Hag might not be the guy anymore, let's bring somebody else in that we're confident and then give him the time? That's, I don't know. It's one of those. And Liverpool, like I said, did the same thing. They thought Rodgers was the guy. They gave him some time. He ended up not being the guy. And thankfully with Klopp, there's if he had been the manager of Chelsea and did what he did for Liverpool last year, he wouldn't be here. That's for sure. And we could see that it wasn't his fault. So I think there's so many problems at United. I don't think a change in captaincy is going to fix it.
And that's the thing. I don't think. I mean, the fact that like we're throwing names Varane and like Ericsson, but Varane did not even start. I mean, he started. I know he was coming back from injury and stuff too, but still, he started like freaking the Leicester City's back line from like a decade ago as their starting lineup against City with like Evans and Maguire, which I think is like. When I saw that, I was like, well, City is not losing any points this week. I mean, it was just like automatic. Ericsson, he doesn't regularly start. I think Rashford is probably would be my candidate, maybe because he's one of the few guys I like on that team. But then his body language and stuff like that's the Moroccan guys. And then, yeah, like he just walked into a shithole. And I think, we are now realizing watching him, and it's kind of like unfair to even judge a guy because he could have been totally different with this midfield right now, playing the six as opposed to playing over there with the chaos in front of him. But Rashford feels like, and here's the thing, like you see these players and there's so much chaos, you can't really blame him for being like, meh, because it's just full chaos. They had that chance, I feel like, John, with Mourinho, because you almost need a manager bigger than the players, and that there's not a lot of managers in the soccer world right now that are like that because there's so much drama. You need somebody who's going to come in, because Ten Hag can't even battle with Sancho without causing problems, so he's not that guy. Mourinho, I thought, was that guy. There's only a few guys like that, maybe like Zidane and Ancelotti or somebody like that, but the problem now that they face is, why would any of those guys, and I know United have the money and stuff like that, but those guys have so many other top options. Why would they choose the United gig over the other one?
Yeah, it's tough. And I always tell my uncle's a United fan. I always tell him that despite how Mourinho ended his United career, because, Mourinho has a track record for cycles, right? Like he starts off okay, then he ends pretty bad. He still was their best manager over the last decade or so because, like, Europa League, League Cup, sure, the honors weren't there. But United were competitive. They could actually play, and they actually nabbed a few wins against Man City. And like you're saying, Tim, he's not a yes man to the board. Like, if he disagrees, he would absolutely mention it and even possibly, cause a scene, talk to the media about it. So that's the kind of strong personality that United possibly need. It's probably not going to be Mourinho himself again, but someone close to that. Now, in terms of the captaincy, yeah, I agree with Gordo. It goes beyond the captaincy, right? But, little things, right? You'd start with the little things, and maybe a change could possibly influence some sort of change in the field. Like, obviously, and I believe I saw this small clip of Ben Foster talking. I was at TikTok, or I believe on Twitter. Like, seeing your
knowing you was probably TikTok. Go ahead.
Right. Seeing your captain just go waving his arms around, complaining to the refs over and over, it's pretty demoralizing for a teammate, right? Like, instead of him getting back, marshaling the troops, telling them where to go, seeing him just waving his arms around like that, it's pretty deflating. It would be. Like, I haven't played for the longest time, but I would be pretty deflated. I'd be like, what are you doing, man? Like, organize your team. Like, our captains, Van Dijk and Henderson, you see them constantly shouting, barking orders to the team to get organized. That's how a captain should be. So, I don't know. I'll throw Luke Shaw in there in terms of a name where I think would be.
That's not bad. If it wasn't
Luke Shaw,
I think that's not a bad name.
Right, has served the club quite a long time. He's pretty solid. He's not the best, but in terms of the effort, I see him give it 100% every time I watch United. So I'd throw Luke Shaw in there. Even Casemiro, because I feel like, the Varanes, the Casemiros have seen it all. They've done it all. They might not have been in the team for the longest time, but in terms of knowing what to do, what it takes to win, it's definitely better than some idiot who's just flailing his arm around and giving up.
That's the thing. I think, obviously, seniority or whatever, like how long they've been there and tenure kind of comes into play. And I think here's another thing. If you're doing a cleanup and you realize it will take some time because there's way too many problems, like Gordo is saying, you want somebody who, you want to start that's going to last a little bit. So Shaw actually is a good name for that. I feel like I didn't think of that because he's been out for quite some time. Or Rashford, that's why that's probably a good name. Somebody younger, because Casemiro is probably, even if you're like, oh man, finally some stability at captaincy, and he's like, I'm retiring. He's like, God damn it, now we got to find another one. So I can see why they would like try to go with somebody who's going to be there for a little bit. But yeah, like so many freaking issues, and like you said, long may it continue. Bring in Conte, this is Ryan, and that was one of the options, but that's exactly why I don't think, for the reasons we stated before, he would not get that job, I don't think, because they know he's gonna speak his mind and he's gonna talk shit. I mean, the way he went. I mean, I would love to be in that press conference because I still love his. One of my favorite press conferences of all time is the one that he did in Tottenham. So, football flashback is our local gambling addict hanging out with Tonali on a daily basis over here. I put a bet on tonight saying Chambers will get an assist from left back, as the odds were really good. What are these good odds? You gotta name numbers over here. Do you think it will happen? Says football flashback. Gordo.
You need to be careful with John. We know that once he gets his sniff of a good odds, he's gonna.
That's why I was baiting him in.
Let's be careful about saying really, really good odds.
I'm out of free bets.
Yeah, now it's real money. Now it's real money we're talking about. So be careful.
I may drink the coffee, but I'm not reckless.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the game. Obviously, we're going to be here for the pre-match once the lineup comes up. So tune in then as we build up towards the game once the lineup is official. Gordo, does he get an assist? Does he get a start? More importantly, you think at left back today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you got to give the guys the rest. We're although there's only, what is it? I think it's 6 or 7 games in November. It's not really that many games. We do always have the December fixture list, which is insane. So you really got to give the guys the time off and get their legs going. So I think it's a great opportunity to bring somebody in that hasn't gotten minutes and send them out there, because Bournemouth is, they're focused on survival. I think Carabao Cup is probably the last thought for them. So I would see them putting out like a weaker team and focusing on the weekend.
Yeah, that's why we were talking about that. I wonder if the win that they got, because let's face it, 3 points down there right now, it feels like 9 or 12 points the way, the way teams are collecting points down there. So I don't know. That'll be interesting to see if they say, hey, you know what, this is fine and dandy. Let's see what happens with what we put out there. If it happens, it happens kind of thing, and rest their guys. 20-1 odds. John, are you getting some of this action over here? Football Flashback has 20 pounds riding on this to make 400. Are you riding? Is the phone up? Are you logging in as we speak?
I don't have
That's
any
good,
free
dude. 20-1, bro.
Yeah,
Come on, bro. You can buy a new pair of United socks for that. Come on.
Listen, man. I spent $100 just out of the blue just to get a Ryan Gravenberch jersey. So in terms of spending power,
I don't think it was out of the blue. You've been talking about that for quite some time.
That is true. That is true. You know what? 20 pounds. I don't know. If we're talking about risk reward, I'd say go for it. Why not? If it 20 pounds, it's something you can make in a reasonable amount of time, and if you win, all the better for you. So I'd go for it, right?
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm tempted.
For American Scouser, we'll put the money down. If we win it, then we'll buy 11 pairs of socks from Dick's Sporting Goods and send them to Manchester United from American Scouser. There's another promise.
There's another problem.
If we win that bet, we'll send 11 brand new socks.
And we'll loosen them up. We'll give it to the guy with the thickest calves on the contributor, so they can loosen it up before we send them. So this is what Football Flashback has. I like it. This is pretty much what I have. Gravenberch isn't there, so I'm sure you're happy, John. Yeah. But anything you change in this, I'm liking this.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm absolutely loving it. I think it's the lineup he's going to go. Although, how much stock do you guys put in to players putting the match graphic on their Instagram story? Because Alexis McAllister put a match day sort of tomorrow Bournemouth thing on his Instagram account. So does that mean he's going to be involved somehow?
No, who was in the press conference? Because I'm assuming McAllister doesn't even know himself that he put that on his Instagram.
Fair. Yeah. Who was on the press? It was Pep Linders who was on the press conference.
No, but who was the player in the press conference? Don't they always grab a player? I saw Pep's press conference, but I didn't see the player.
Isn't that just in Europe?
I think they do that for any, but yeah, this is one that I was going to ask you guys. As much as
Right.
I like that lineup, does Jota coming off the earliest in that game? Like because he came in obviously in the 58s and Gravenberg came out 58s. They played less minutes. Does that put Jota in over perhaps Nunez? So it's Jota, Gakpo, Harvey. No player says Cersei.
Yeah, we have Luton at the weekend, so I would say, it's probably you don't really need to rest up for Luton. So I could see
don't
him.
say that, man. Don't say that.
Yeah, I kind of got worried when Gordo was going there. I was like, last season, just the war flashbacks in Vietnam.
Yeah, if something happens this weekend, I am putting it on you right here for saying that. Jesus.
All right.
We'll try to edit this out or something.
I'll shut my mouth now.
Yeah, Jota over Darwin. Darwin subs at 60th minute. I almost feel like, I think I like Flashback's lineup, but I do put Jota in there just for that. And then if things go south, even if things do not go south, I think you bring them in because there's no extra time, right? After 90, we're going direct into PKs. And that's the thing, Gordo, you think Bournemouth basically plays for that and says, hey, we'll take our chances with the penalty kicks?
So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I think they might just park that bus because they have City at the weekend, then Newcastle is the next game, and then Sheffield United. So they probably decided that November is a wash for them, and they'll just do whatever they can to get some points here and there. So I could see, see them just parking the bus.
Football flashback, mate. Just calm down a little bit, my guy. I'm getting worried for you.
Oh, he's betting all over. He's like, I'm hot right now. But wait till the Chambers bet comes out. Then you can just use that money into some other.
Like even if he does get the Chambers bet, I feel like the newfound confidence there is gonna be as dangerous as him losing that bet, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing: he's gonna put 400 on the Salah to score a hat trick. Is what would happen probably. So,
do you guys think we see Ben Doken?
Isn't he still hurt?
Linder said that he's all right. I think he can feature.
I say he probably comes in at 60 if he is trained. I bet you they don't start him. I bet you he might come off the bench, maybe even later in the game, just somebody to kind of switch some things up at the 70th minute or whatever, especially if we can't break down the Bournemouth back line. Because that's one thing that a changed Liverpool is not very good at doing, is breaking a team that holds their lines. And, we really strive off of pulling teams into the offensive zone and then finding the gaps that they're leaving behind them. And if Bournemouth is not willing to do that, a very changed Liverpool team is probably not going to be able to break them down. So I think it all depends on how we look at 60 minutes. If we're cruising, you might hold off and make some subs in the 80th minute just to give some guys a run out. But if we really need a shakeup, then that 60-minute mark is going to be where Klopp's going to try and inject some flashes in the pan, if you will.
And I feel, you keep some guys. Maybe that's when you bring in Mo and stuff like that and say, what you can do and say, hey, and then not to mention when you put in players like Mo and stuff, you're putting in guys you can rely on during penalty kicks as well. Football Flash says he has no wife or kids, so he can put a budget for bets. I'll tell you what, dude, at this rate, you will be looking for a rich wife or a widow or something like that with kids. So I would still play it safe. You never know. But okay, well, that's it for us for this morning. But we'll be back. You boys are both in for pre-match, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we'll be here right after the lineup comes out, about like 45 minutes or so before kickoff over here. Join us then. Let's see if Football Flashback is right, and then bring in all the odds and stuff. We'll play some bets together and see where it goes.
For guys who hate the Wednesday show, they're not gonna like this today.
No, right? It's gonna be an overdose of this trio over here. But we should have some other people jumping on so you guys still have some hope. We might have a couple of other people jumping on the pre and post match over here.
Don't forget to donate to the United Sock Fund, hosted by American Scouser. If you have an old pair of socks that's nice and beat up, go ahead and donate those.
Gently used but overstretched is what we're looking for.
For a good cause.
We'll see you guys at the pre-match. Have a great day. Until then, take care.